What a joy to see the majority in that marginal seat move from 1,100 to 4,400, quadrupled. And the reason for that was not just what was done on the ground, but it was a reflection of the British people's faith in the determination and leadership of our Prime Minister, and I pay particular tribute to him for what he's done for our country. It's also 23 years since I've been in your Lordship's house on the back benches, and in those 23 years I've taken a particular interest in South Asia and a specific interest in a country that I first worked in when I had nothing to do with politics, which was then Ceylon. A great friend of this country, thousands there people killed over the two world wars, one of the few countries to speak up in our favour over the Falklands. They themselves faced a huge problem of a quasi-30-year war against the Tamil Tigers, which became a real war on January the 1st, 2009, covered by the international humanitarian law conditions. That lasted until May the 18th. I have in my possession the heavily redacted reports from Colonel Gash of what happened on the ground. A year after that, the UN decided to set up a three-man mission to investigate. They didn't take evidence on the ground in Sri Lanka. They asked for submissions to be made, and those submissions have never been made public and are covered by a 30-year rule, so nobody knows what they really were. But slowly the UN took a greater interest in what was happening in Sri Lanka, and the net result was that they set up in March 2012 the UNHCR, a body that today is chaired by the United Kingdom. Its role is to promote reconciliation and accountability in Sri Lanka. No argument about that. But there has to be within the context of sovereignty, independence, and unity and territorial integrity of Sri Lanka. So it starts in March 2012, and here we are 8 years further on. Has Sri Lanka cooperated? Yes. 90% of the land that was used by the military during the war has been given back to the private sector. Demining is nearly ended, and a big thank you to all those involved. Rehousing, 300,000 people rehoused since the war. Infrastructure restored, and so on. But there is one further point. There are complaints about torture. I've seen the ICRC 3 times now and asked them, have they seen torture in Sri Lanka? The answer has been every time a clear answer, no. So it's fake news. And today there's a shadow. The shadow is still a claim that the UN started with of 40,000 killed. I spent 10 years looking at Cash's reports, looking at the Tamil University teachers' reports, a census, all the coverage I can find. And the net result of that is about 6,000 people killed, of which a quarter are Tamil Tigers. But despite all this, we now find the UNHCR has decided wants to try and get war crimes pinned on the Sri Lankan army. And yet the reports of Colonel Gash made it quite clear that that army behaved admirably and indeed looked after the civilians. And if they wanted to knock them off, then over 295,000 would not have been safely brought across the lines, would they? So I believe the time has come for the March review, which is to take place, for that to be the wind-up time for that particular phase of life in Sri Lanka. And we've now got 2 new leaders, one here in the UK with drive and determination and commitment. And you've got almost an identical philosophy in the new elected Gotabaya Rajapaksa, a man of proven leadership, ability with an agenda to keep the peace, to keep an inclusive policy for minorities, etc. I see huge opportunities for trade. My noble friend Lord Naseby raised some of them. I concur with that. There is a huge opportunity, but only if the UNHCR project is wound up. So I'd say to this House and to my noble friend on the front bench, this year is the year for the UK to have faith in Sri Lanka and its newly elected executive president.